Sparring, hugely important on the journey to the top. Sparring, various intensity levels, various types of sparring exercises. Gracie combatives, there is no sparring. Why not?
Well, it doesn't make sense. If Jiu-Jitsu is something you can do for years, people train for 8 years, 10 years.
If you do it right.
If you do it right.
20, 30, 60 years.
Long time. Why be in such a rush to start sparring 3 months in?
Injuries,
5 months in?
Now, let's be honest. We used to have the students sparring,
Of course.
right away. Like every other Jiu-Jitsu school today that
We didn't know what we were doing.
No, be real. Like most other schools still do today, we used to here at the academy have students sparring in the first, literally within 5 classes, maybe like not their first and second class. We'd be like, hey, second class, sit down. First class, sit down. Everybody else grab a partner. Third class into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, after a life of chaos and sports and athletics, where all they use is strength and explosiveness and speed, they pair up with someone on the mat and they go wild. And of course, as teachers, we love to see that. It's like, yeah, go, go, go. And then somebody wins and we're like, yeah, he won. He used the technique. But he just smashed on some guy or girl who was much weaker, less athletic, didn't have the techniques, and it really meant nothing. We used to do it. We realized 2 things. Number one, at that early stage, within the first 6 months to a year, the student doesn't really have the technique to do it safely, to train safely with someone else. And yeah, it's just chaos. They just go to their instincts. The technique hasn't been ingrained in them long enough to even be trusted. Think about that. So they might have learned a few moves, then they spar, and then they want to go crazy back to their natural instincts of going, energy and strength and explosiveness. And the main reason though is the safety aspect of it. It doesn't make sense. They don't have enough technique to protect themselves or their training partners if they're sparring no earlier than the first 6 months to a year of their training career.
What about the idea that if you learn the trap and roll technique, and then your 3rd day in you start sparring, you might not be able to apply that technique in your sparring. And then that makes you lose
faith in the
you
technique.
lose the faith. You don't even believe in the technique anymore, so you kind of
Dismiss it. Yeah, because they haven't built a relationship yet.
and it's an amazing move. How can you dismiss the trap and roll?
Now the question is, why doesn't it work 4 days into the sparring? Why didn't it work?
Practice.
Practice.
You gotta,
But also, who's their opponent?
somebody more advanced.
Someone who knows the move is coming.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So, of course, the trap and roll is not going to work 6 days in or 10 days into your training because you're going to get someone who knows it's coming. But guess what? The trap and roll works very well in a street fight against someone who doesn't know it's coming. So the question becomes,
well against you too.
Can you?
I use it against you.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not a street fight.
Correct. It works well once you develop such a ridiculous
Yeah.
timing and confidence and execution, yes. But in a week or 2, yeah, it's so major. So the question is, some people doubt whether or not you can become street ready or your techniques can even be used in the street if you don't spar intensely in the gym. And the answer is yes. If you go through the Gracie Combatives training curriculum as we have it outlined, techniques, reflex development drills, and fight simulation drills, and you do them at progressively higher intensity levels without, of course, going overboard, but not in a way where you are trying to defeat each other's technique. In a way that one person is trying to create opportunities for the other, it can be very effective. And the main reason that still does work in a street fight is because in a street fight, you're not fighting someone who's expecting all these techniques to take place. As soon as you spar, it becomes sportive. You have one person who is going to try to defeat none other than the techniques you are using. And that's completely different than what you would experience in a real fight. So, Gracie Combatives for what it is, which is preparing for the worst case scenario for a street fight against someone who doesn't know your techniques. The training is there, it's safe, and doesn't require sparring, nor do we recommend it at that early stage, here at the academy, online, at home, or anywhere. Now, once you perfect Gracie Combatives, the fight simulation drills, you can flow seamlessly through the techniques against someone who's creating for you, and then it's fun to train with someone who knows what's coming and try to defeat each other. It's like playing chess, And that's what sparring is all about. It's 2 people who know each other's techniques, who are going to try to defend them, defeat them, and try to overcome one another. Now, sparring. What's the final goal? For you and your partner to be able to spar with one another at very high intensity. Me and Hidon can go complete craziness. Like it's watching like two raptors sparring each other, and no one gets hurt. Everyone learns. Everyone has a chance to benefit and grow and try some techniques during the session.
Little exercise.
Super exercise. Those are the benefits, and that's what we're finally going to work towards. Now, training out of your house, in your garage, there is a gradual kind of progression to reach that stage, you know? There is, and of course in all the lessons, in the Master Cycle lessons, as you've been going through, you'll see in the focus sparring exercises we give you, kind of the best, you know, mindset tips and strategies of how to go about that. But really what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to give you at home, through these focus sparring exercises, I guess the same experience that our students get here at the Academy. And the main difference is the number of partners. Here at the Academy, one student in a class of 50 people has 49 potential training partners. Some are smaller, some are bigger, some are weaker, some are stronger, some are smarter, some are less knowledgeable with the techniques. All range of training partners. So this person doesn't really have to change themselves that much. They just stay who they are, and they get so many different people going against them that they get kind of the full spectrum of benefits from a variety of training partners and places to test your skills. Now, in your house, that's not the case.
Although, I feel like I can beat 10 different training partners. Yes. If I taught someone a private class, I could act 10, 15 different ways.
Yeah, it's so funny. He can be lighter, he can be stronger, he can be super heavy, he can be less knowledgeable, way more knowledgeable.
It doesn't even make sense. How can I be lighter
and heavier?
And heavier.
They do. When you grapple with our little brothers, you weigh 50 pounds.
Same weight as they do.
Crazy, right? So what do we want? This is so major. How you deal with sparring, how you control the intensity of your at-home training sessions is the make it or break it detail. It's the detail that will determine whether or not you are even capable of growing in this art at your house. It's it. In other words, if you can't spar and progressively intensify and diversify your behavior as the training partner, you have a very limited growth potential. And much of the criticism that Gracie University gets is precisely regarding the fact that you might only have 2 or 3 training partners, or 4 or 5 even, whereas at a school you have 60 training partners.
And that criticism comes from Jiu-Jitsu school owners and students because they want you to come train at their school.
Of course, but also it has some reason in the sense that if you at training at home, you cannot change your behavior. You have very limited growth potential.
Correct. But we believe that you can.
Yes, and that's what we want to talk about a little bit right now, is how to do that. So how do you do that? How do you become 10 people?
Well,
and what's going on in your mind to allow that to happen?
You got to want to help your partner, number 1.
And number 2.
And number 3. So, to be stronger. Because sometimes you could say, yeah, it's so hard. When you're under someone on the bottom of the mountain, you need to become a very strong, explosive partner for the person you're training with. But that might make you expose yourself. That might get you tired. That might cause you to be defeated.
But guess what?
It's okay.
It benefits your partner.
Yes.
So I think at the front of everything you do at your house has to be the desire to grow your partner.
And when you grow your partner, you're actually growing you.
And they will equally commit to growing you.
That's what I'm saying.
So when me and Hiro are training at the house, there are 2 people growing Henner. And there are 2 people growing Hiro.
So by me making you better, you're going to be there better for me when I need you to be a better training partner.
Correct. Yeah, and we're speaking in very general terms now, because in the specific lessons, especially in the rapid mastery drills and the focus sparring exercises, we give specific kind of examples of how to be more dynamic as a training partner. But your ability to do this, your ability to play that role, because that's really what it boils down to. Let's say, for example, you have one person at the house who's, 200 pounds, and you have another person who's 165. If both of you go full speed when you spar right away, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get hurt, and someone's not going to grow as much as the other person, and both people's growth will be very limited. Because the person who's 190 is going to get on top and dominate and control, and the person who's 150, 160 is going to practice a lot of their bottom game, but very little top game, and both of them are going to stagnate at that point. Tell us.
This is how that's possible that the person who's heavier, if we never said anything, could be on top all the time
For their whole career.
for years. And then one day, somehow somebody mounts them.
In a fight, in a training session, or here at the academy,
It's like, it's the end of the world.
they're going to
They have no idea what to do.
So that 150 or 60 pound person, you have to allow them to be 220 some days. And what that means is let them mount on you, and possibly when you're practicing mount submission counters, let them mount on you and don't even escape. Just lay there and let them attack you. So there are ways to make anyone become anyone else, to make any challenge out of anything. And that's what we need you to be very eager to explore, and the effectiveness to which you explore that will determine the growth so much. So sparring, it's so incredible. When you have 20 training partners, you have to do very little, and you get the benefit of all the different training partners. But if you have one training partner, you better be very creative at how you make them challenge you and how you encourage them to challenge you and what opportunities you give them against you and vice versa. Basically, you have to become each other's teachers. If you were to have a private class with Hidon and he were to go full speed against you, unless you know what he knows, if you were to go full speed, and those were your classes, all he did is smash on you 100%, you would benefit. You would benefit a little bit. You would learn a lot of his submissions and whatnot, but you benefit like 10% probably.
Yep.
You would never have one chance to go for one submission. Not that you won't catch it. You won't even get a chance to even go attempt. You won't even think about a submission while you're going with him. Wow. So guess what? You get in a street fight, there's an arm lock opportunity, and you don't catch it. Because in Hidon's private class, you couldn't even breathe. You couldn't even see any submission opportunities. So what does Hidon do? He diversifies. Now, why does he do that? Because he cares about nothing more than helping you grow. And what we're saying is that in order for you guys to grow dynamically at home, each individual must 100%, if there's more than that, they must all have the same mindset, which is, how can we make this person better? Everyone commits to that. Whatever it takes. Wasting energy, giving opportunities, starting from certain positions, whatever. And then that person will return the favor and do everything they can to help you grow.
It's such a positive, right? Like a friendly environment. It's ridiculous.
If done properly.
This doesn't even exist. This whole wanting to help the other person in schools where there's an instructor in the middle of the room coordinating everything.
Sometimes the instructor himself doesn't even want to help.
Sometimes the instructor himself will just tap you out 30 times.
It's so major.
Wow. You can create an environment that's possibly more positive, more helpful, better learning experience.
Yeah. Than many Jiu-Jitsu schools. You can create it in your house.
With 4 people at home?
Wow. The vibe is right. It's a sincere desire to help everyone else. So, there it is. You have to know what the final goal is. The final goal is for both partners, even at 195 and 160, for both partners to be able to go full speed against each other and it be a beneficial training session.
This might take years.
It might take years.
It might take 2 years.
Yeah.
3 years. And you know what's wild is that this attitude is going to bring, it humbles you a little bit. It gets everything out of the way.
It gets it gets the ego out of the way.
It gets the ego out of the way. Everything's just cool. Like, and it should do this. It's everything. And ego is a big thing in Jiu-Jitsu. This is just so
major.
It's so fun. It's just
sparring. So here it is. As we go forward, we're going to spar. Now there are different types of sparring, as you see in the Master Cycle lessons. We have positional sparring, where we mount on each other or in the guard, and we just stay in that position and we go. Both people going, doing their thing, making it happen. Positional startup, which means you start from the guard or mount or side mount or back mount, and you continue to spar from there. Okay, and then once you submit, you start back over. The most important one, fight simulation sparring. Most important one for obvious reasons. It reminds you of where they will be delivered from. The punches will be delivered from, the angles. And interestingly enough, is even when you're sparring normal, right? Let's say you're sparring without strikes, just positional startup, freestyle flow. You should get the habit of being aware of your exposed or your exposure to punches, even when punches aren't being thrown. It's not a bad habit. Okay? Even though they're not being thrown, just say, wow, he could hit me right there. Just acknowledge it. That's it. That's your homework. That's it. You don't have to block the punch. Just acknowledge that it could be there. And what does that do for you? You develop the habit of knowing where the angles are. So if you get in a fight, that could be punching right there. Boom, you block. Boom, you block. You block. You know, so.
And it's preparation. So when you put the gloves on, you'll be even more,
You're aware.
it'll be a better sparring session.
So fight simulation sparring is the most important one, where you have one person gloves striking at the other person.
Once a week.
You don't have to do it more than once a week, once every couple of weeks. And we throw it in there as the focus sparring session in the Master Cycle lessons, as you probably have seen. So just make sure you hit that whenever we propose it, and maybe a few times extra if you want. Now, sparring will be part of the test, the stripe test and the belt test going forward.
And what intensity sparring?
We're going to look for, it's going to be pretty serious. We want to see resistance from the training partner. Now, it depends, right? Let's say you're sparring with someone who is 260 and you're 150, you know, and you're testing for your first stripe blue belt. Obviously, we don't expect that person to just side mount you, smash you, and hold you for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. So we want to see movement, but we want to see resistance. It's not going to be cooperative creation. It's going to be, you know, we want to see you create your own opportunities and see what you look like with some resistance from another skilled training partner. So sparring will happen, gi, no gi, and of course fight simulation as well. So prepare for it and be very committed to the training and development of your skill and your comfort in these sparring sessions. Generally speaking, how much time should you spar? Normally, we recommend the same amount of time you spend on technique on sparring. So if you spent 30 minutes practicing the techniques of the day, 20, 30 minutes of sparring, you know, maybe 3 10-minute rounds is not a bad idea. Of course, you're going to get tired, but it's a good goal to aim for, you know. In other words, it's that important because realistically, aside from the techniques that you would use only in a street fight, like the punch block series, you know what I'm saying? Clinch, aggressive opponent,
Headlock with the punch.
headlock, fence with a punch. Those are techniques that you would never even use in a sportive setting, most likely because they wouldn't do it. A skilled opponent wouldn't do those attacks against you. Aside from those techniques, it's critically important that every technique you learn, you test against a skilled opponent, right? Someone who knows it's coming. Why is that so important? Because, man, it makes you sharp. If I can trap and roll Hidon, or if I can elbow escape Hidon, or if I can pass Hidon's guard, and he knows it's coming, guess what? I got it down pretty tight. So, how do you get to that point?
Yeah.
Sparring. It is very important.
The chances that someone mounts you or I in a street fight, impossible.
Yeah.
Because we can't even mount each other
Yes.
when we're sparring.
Major.
If we're on prevent the mount mode, it doesn't happen.
So major. So how is it that sparring without punches can enhance your street fight potential? Precisely what Hidon's talking about.
The philosophies.
Oh, the philosophies for sure.
The don't
The
panic.
principles too. The principles of leverage and control. If I can control Hidon from the side mount when there's no punches being thrown, I can certainly control him from the side mount when there are punches being thrown, you know? So as long as you do that fight simulation, the key is that you have to always make sure that fight simulation remains fresh and is something that is openly practiced and is prevalent in your mind, because there are a lot of Jiu-Jitsu practitioners out there who spar very hard all the time but never consider the punches. And that is the real danger. That's the only real danger. But to spar sportively, you know, which is when you spar without punches, is okay as long as you have what we call the street switch built in, which is a switch that when you hit it on, when you flip it on, everything you know is now street applicable. That's major. So, and that you can only develop that switch if you're constantly aware of the angles and you do that fight simulation sparring every so often. So it's constantly reminding you of, okay, this is real here. I can't do this, but I can do this. Where if you don't do that fight simulation sparring, trust me, when the punches are finally getting thrown, panic. Okay? So, sparring. Sharpen each other's swords. It's an incredible thing. And be dynamic, guys. When there's only 2 or 3 or 5 training partners, you have to be super creative because, man, you don't have the luxury of 20, 30 training partners. Okay? So, take the responsibility into your own hands. Be your own teachers. And most importantly, remember, when there's 2 people in the room, there are 2 people worrying about Hidon's progress, and there are 2 people worrying about my progress. Okay? As long as that's the prevalent thought in the minds of all the training partners, okay, you're going to be okay. But if that's not the thought, your growth is going to be like this.
So nobody's arm should be getting hyperextended.
No. Because if you're in a private class with Hidon, would he hyperextend your arm? No. He would catch it playfully, let go, keep flowing. Then he'd let you catch his arm. He would defend that arm lock so that next time you get a little bit tighter. Okay? Sparring. Control the intensity, help each other. You are each other's teachers. Adopt the mindset and you'll be cool.